We're joined now by Governor Scott Walker, Republican candidate for the presidency. Governor, good morning to you.
Thank you for having me on. Glad to be with you.
A lot of our viewers are hurting right now. Their 401k plans are going down big time. Who do you blame?
Well, we need certain instability in the market, and that means we need certain instability in America. We need a president who's not focused on all these other issues, but is focused on helping the people of America create more jobs and more opportunity. And I think that's part of the frustration. A lot of people realize that in Washington, they think growing Washington's the key. I think growing the economy outside of Washington is the key.
But that's not broken through, has it? That message hasn't broken through at this point. The finger of blame is being pointed at China or the Federal Reserve and certainly President Obama's economic policies. But the idea of growth, it's not broken through to the front ranks yet, has it?
No, it hasn't. That's one of the frustrating things. I started talking about it when I announced my campaign last month. Here we sit a month and a half later, and we're talking about a whole bunch of other issues when the real issue is about growth. How do we grow the economy? Sure. Over the last year or so, we've seen in particular 6 of the top 10 wealthiest counties in America. You know where they were this past year? They were around Washington, D.C. That's because under people like President Obama and Hillary Clinton, they think you grow the economy by growing Washington and K Street. I think we grow it by growing the economy out in cities and towns and villages across this country. One of the best things we can do is get the government out of the way.
Have you been trumped? And by that I mean Donald Trump has made the headway. You've dropped back in the polls. Have you been trumped, literally?
Well, there's a little bit of that out there, but remember, the only poll that matters is the one on Election Day. I've known that many times in the past when I've been counted out in previous elections and we came through to a victory. And remember, last time we had an open race for president, another New Yorker, Rudy Giuliani, was out in front, along with U.S. Senator Fred Thompson. They were ahead of guys by the name of John McCain and Mitt Romney. And on the Democrat side, the last time there was an open seat, Hillary Clinton at this point was ahead of John Edwards and some guy by the name of Barack Obama. So a lot's going to happen between now and the next election.
Let's get to specifics. Later this month, China's premier arrives in Washington, D.C. for a state visit. You've said cancel it. Bearing in mind what's going on in the financial markets and in China right now, you still want to cancel that visit?
Yeah, this is something that's one of our highest rewards that we can give to a friend and an ally out there. This includes a 21-gun salute on the South Lawn. I think most Americans would question why we're giving a 21-gun salute and this kind of prestige to a country that's been involved in cyber attacks against our own federal government, against the U.S. government.
But it would be taken as a slap in the
personal
face.
Information at risk.
It would be a huge diplomatic insult to China. You really want to do that at this time?
Well, I'm not talking about not trading. I'm not talking about not communicating. But when you give a state visit, when you have an official state visit, this is one of the highest rewards you can give to a country. After all that's been involved with of late this year alone with the cyber attacks against our government, putting millions of people's personal information at risk, looking at what's happened over the years, particularly this year with the advances into international waters and the creation of new islands in the South China Sea. If there's ever a time we're going to push back, isn't it now? I mean, what more do they have to do before we say, no, a state visit's not appropriate out there? I think there are very legitimate concerns out there. And as you know, just in the last few weeks, efforts to devalue their currency, and I think the ongoing concern many of us have about manipulating the economy, not just currency, the economy, in terms of subsidizing businesses that compete directly with American companies and their workers, and in terms of intellectual property theft, which has been a problem for American companies and their workers as well.
Governor, you said that building a wall between the United States and Canada, 5,525-mile wall, is, quote, a legitimate issue to look at. This morning, the Washington Post says that's a laugh-out-loud, ridiculous idea. What's the latest from you on the wall?
Well, I'm all for, and I've talked all year long about securing our border, our southern border. I've talked about the infrastructure as well as the personnel and the technology to do that, and about the need to enforce the laws. I laugh because, to me, the laugh out loud is that the media, like the Washington Post, could so misinterpret something so many times removed from what I said Sunday on the Sunday morning shows. When asked about that, I pointed out that a voter came up to me at one of our recent meetings, and I believe it was someone who actually retired in law enforcement, and expressed concern that there wasn't enough staff in the federal government to work with local law enforcement along the northern border counties. And I said, that's a legitimate issue that should be addressed. I've never talked about building a wall in the north. This is just a classic example of the media spinning from one to the next without actually looking at the source.
Okay, Governor Walker, look, thank you very much indeed for joining us today. We really appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.